This is the Women of Wonder podcast, where we help women tap into their superpowers. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Women of Wonder. I am here with Marika Richoz and really excited to have her. We're going to have a great conversation. Marika is a chef. She's also a Kundalini teacher and talks about perimenopause, which is a part of her life at this point that she's helping people through, and also a counselor. So welcome, Marika.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Yes, I'm excited too. And so, Marika, why don't you tell us and our Women of Wonder viewers a little bit about yourself? Like, what are you into? What are you passionate about? Who is Marika?
Still figuring that out. I guess I'm known in the world as a chef, as like the things that you mentioned, and how I sort of came to be a chef is I think a unique experience story that I'll share. I was living the desk life in an office and felt like, oh, you know what, this is not fulfilling. I am actually getting quite depressed. And but I love food. I love cooking. I love, just nourishing people. But I didn't want to be a chef in a restaurant. I was like, that is not the life for me. I want to actually see the people I'm feeding and know like how they're reacting to the food and all that.
So more intimate,
Yes.
connected experience.
Exactly. So in 2009, I went to Buenos Aires. I experienced what they call like an underground restaurant, which is basically people open up their homes and it's kind of like this pseudo restaurant dinner party. And
Wow.
yeah, it's very cool.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, you leave a suggested donation, and it's a mix of people. Like at this one I went to, it was like the chef's friends. There were some tourists, and I think there was 20 of us. And I was just blown away. And I was like, "This is what I'm doing.
This is it. I found it."
And I came back to Vancouver. And long story short, about a year later, I found the right apartment to do it, and I was like in a much smaller apartment prior to that was not conducive to hosting big dinner parties.
Oh, wow. So you even switched to like your environment, not only at work, but at home too.
Yes.
Fully inspired.
Fully inspired. I did keep my day job for about a year, and I did brunch on the weekends, and just through word of mouth, it got out, and kept getting busier and busier and busier. And I was like,
Wow.
people want me to do dinners now. I think I'm going to quit my job.
Oh.
And then I was given these two different cooking opportunities. One was in France. One was for like a high profile person. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is the sign I needed. And I quit my job. And that was like the big sort of, I feel like really when my life started, my like who I am, expressing myself in the world.
Wow. That is so powerful that you made that change, and in a big way. And so like, how did that affect, like you said, you were in work mode before and working, going into the office and not feeling your best and maybe feeling depressed, and then starting to do this work, like, did you notice a shift right away?
Definitely. Yeah. It was like I equate it to like when you're in a new relationship, when you really like somebody that like, I just want to do this all the time. I want to see you all the time. I'm like so motivated, and it's like the only thing on your mind. So yeah, it was definitely like, wow, I am super passionate about this, and so focused on just making it happen.
Amazing. And I think that's like a good reminder to us that it's important to do what we love, right? That we can go through life, of course, just doing a job and making money. But what's the point of that? Because there's going to be a sacrifice of happiness. And then what's the point of life? Is it just to make money and buy things, or is it to actually feel happy and feel joy? Which I think you were like on that path of discovering. And so tell us about like your Kundalini connection and how did you come to that? So like maybe you can also tell people a little bit about what Kundalini is, because I know it's Kundalini yoga, but it's a little different than just like a yoga class. So if you've taken a yoga class, cool, amazing. Yeah. But like maybe you can, teach us what is the uniqueness about Kundalini.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, Kundalini, how I describe it, because people come to traditional yoga and, there's usually some downward dogs and like, all that stuff.
Yeah.
With Kundalini, how I relate to it is sort of like a nervous system upgrade. So we do a lot of chanting, a lot of breath work and movement, and not necessarily movement that you need to be flexible, but there needs to be some stamina.
Yes, I've taken her classes and amazing and love it. And you need the stamina, but it's different, right? Yeah, it's different than just like that nervous system reset. That is why I'm drawn to it. And I'm just realizing that it's because it's not just the movement, it's the reset so that you feel good. I actually feel like a better human after I do your classes. Like I feel like happy and joyous.
Yeah, totally. And that's why I was drawn to it. I'd done other types of yogas, even other types of yoga teacher trainings. And when I found Kundalini, I mean, I walked out of the first class and I was high. I was just
Yeah.
like, what happened here? This is
Yeah.
something else. I want more.
Yeah, it's like a next level of energy, right? You feel
Yeah.
like you're like, I think they talk about, Kundalini. I don't know, people use this kind of
Kundalini
motion,
rising,
the
yeah.
Kundalini rising, but
Yeah.
I get it. It's this energy rising.
Yeah.
And you feel alive.
Totally. Yeah. It's really, I think it's one of the most powerful tools for moving energy. I kind of equate Kundalini to cold plunging, where you're getting in something that's going to be maybe a little bit uncomfortable at first. You're not going to like it, but you're going to have to breathe through it and you're going to get out and you're going to feel like so amazing.
So amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, cold plunging.
Yeah.
Cold plunging is hard. I'm trying. I took like a lukewarm bath, and that was my start.
Okay. Yeah.
Start.
20-second showers.
20
That's where you start.
Okay,
Yeah,
20-second cold showers. And so you were drawn to that because you felt like that nervous system reset was helping you.
For sure. It was also, it really got me out of my head and into my body. I think a lot of us can relate, that busy, busy, busy mind and nonstop. So this was like, oh, wow, I am feeling this, like all the nerves, everything's like connected. So that was just like, oh, I'm getting a little break from the chatter. So really
Yes.
embodied. Yeah.
Because I think you're right. Like we're so often in our minds, in our brains, like talking to self, what's not enough, should have done more, could have done this, should have, would have, whatever. And then we get like really wrapped up. And then physically, like I find myself, then it leads to pain, like pain and aches and things. And when tapping into the body and releasing that energy, then it gives the opportunity for the mind and body to both relax.
100%. Yeah.
And so as you were on that path, then, so first you took the class and then you're like, I want more. And then you're like, now I want to teach it. So then you trained.
I did, yeah. So I think it was probably a year after I did my first class, I decided to take a teacher training. And that was about a year. And it was very traditional. There's sort of like, the way I teach Kundalini is a little bit more modern. There was a style of teaching that was very, very traditional, which I trained in. But I've sort of given it a little Marika's flavor, I would like to call it. Kundalini 2.0.
Kundalini, and even your Instagram is like Paprika Marika.
Yes.
So it kind of shows, adds a little spice to what it is. And so you do online,
Yes.
like challenges. And I've taken that and it's amazing, like to see what I can do and even getting up early in the morning and just committing. And, I know how I feel after like a 30-day challenge or 15-day challenge. What do you see the differences in people? Like, what have you noticed?
You know what? I would just say, like, what I really notice is how happy people are.
Happier people.
Yeah, like, there's just a joy for the most part that I see in people's faces. And obviously I'm connecting with them online, which is great.
Yeah.
And also I think a big thing is just that stamina, but also the endurance to withhold discomfort. Like seeing like, wow, I didn't think when we started this on day one, I would be able to do 2 minutes of these crazy squats. But now like it's impressive what the human body and mind can do when like you just that
I'm
little
almost
extra.
motivated to like stand up and show you these squats or like the frog squats or like whatever these are. They're hilarious. But you're right. At first I'm like, holy, like if I can do 5, I'm happy. And then by the end I'm like, oh, I'm just whipping through these. Like it's like I'm training and it's working.
Yes.
And I'm enjoying it. I'm embracing it. And then the next minute I might not be again, but that's okay too, because I'm able to do it. That's the work through it.
For sure. Yeah. And I always tell people, like, yeah, we all have bad days. We have days when we're really exhausted or something's going on with our family. You don't know. So you might not be as strong one day. That's cool. Just show up and just try. Just imagine yourself doing it. I say so sometimes,
Yeah, that's
like
good
just
one.
like close your eyes and like, okay, there I am doing the squats. Can't do it today, but
But I like that. I'm gonna try. For the days I haven't been showing up, which have been some of the days lately, haven't been able to show up even.
Yeah.
But even to like imagine doing it so that it feels like, I think that's probably still helping the nervous system and helping the body. And so on those days that you yourself maybe experience that this is a tough day or it's hard or like, how do I show up? Or, what helps you in life? What's helping you to kind of get through those tough times? Like obviously Kundalini is one of them.
Kundalini, coffee.
Coffee is always yummy.
I'm like got a love-hate relationship with coffee.
Do you? How do you take it? What's your...
Usually just like a little oat milk. Yeah. It's not the best actually for my nervous system, but it's so delicious.
So
and
delicious.
Like, yeah. So yeah, I would definitely say Kundalini, coffee, and good therapy, great friends. Like those, and exercise, like going out in nature, walking with my dog. Like those are really like, oh yes.
Yes, it's super important. My background is a therapist as well. And so years of, being in therapy myself, like seeing a therapist, making sure, couples therapy, individual therapy. It's like if you're in your 30s and you don't have a therapist that you can go to as like your regular, what are you really doing? Like it's important, right? Like it's not that there's anything wrong with us. It's that we all would benefit to be able to share and talk to someone, right? Like even why we started Women of Wonder is so that we can create a community of supportive, loving women who want to listen and be there and elevate each other. But it's also nice to have that therapist who's just super neutral and can hear you. And you can work through all this stuff that we bring, right? And so you're also a counselor. How did you get in onto that path yourself?
Just really from how I benefited from counseling and therapy. I got so much out of it. And I started, noticing that my friends were coming to me and seeking advice and then commenting how much I'd helped them. So I was like, oh, this is so rewarding. And I really thought, well, I've done most of the things I want to do in my life. Like, why am I not pursuing this? So I did a course during COVID in 2 years, and I got a counseling diploma, and I started practicing. And I took a little bit of a break because I needed to for myself.
Because that's life, and sometimes we need to do that. That's healthy.
Exactly. And I've just started up again. So yeah, I'm excited.
And so what type of client are you drawn to?
Good question.
Or is drawn to you?
Oh, that's a bit of both. Yeah. Gosh. I think where we serve best, or I feel like I serve best, is what I've gone through. So I love working with IFS, which is internal family systems. It's basically looking at all the different parts inside of us, because we've got a million going on. Even if you don't know, you do. You got like
100%.
Yeah. So that's been huge for me, and really helping women with like issues of self-esteem and relationships and self-doubt. So yeah, those are the big ones.
So huge. We just had a Women of Wonder event, and we were talking like, what kind of themes, like what's coming up for people. And yeah, like that self-love, it is a big one, and that's tapped into, right? The self-esteem, and am I enough? And am I doing enough? Should I do more? Like all these things that we're constantly faced with. And as women, I think we just naturally start to feed into, but we don't have to, right? We can say like, I am enough. We are doing enough. We're good. I'm going to give time and love and energy for myself.
Yeah.
Like sometimes if I need to take a break, it's okay to say no.
Yeah, boundaries and yeah. So I think with therapy is really just getting to know yourself and like the shadow parts and all of it. And even before love is like that acceptance. Like I think sometimes we want to jump to like the self-love, but it's like, oh, that is a really hard thing for me to accept about myself. So just starting on these like little steps I find is
Right. There's even accepting like I accept all of this.
yeah, exactly. I may not love it yet or may not even like it,
Yeah.
but I'm learning to accept it, or I'm like, I hold the vision that maybe one day I will even love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that step by step. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And then also like it's interesting to wonder why so many of us experience that. You know, like why is it that we're like for us to say, okay, it might take time. I might not even like fully like or love myself right now, but just to accept self. What a big concept, but so simple. Like, and how many of us out there aren't accepting?
Yeah.
And then to be in that body and to be going through each day and not fully connected, it's pretty hard. And so like I feel like the work that you're doing through like Kundalini or through counseling and through, you know, even like nurturing your body and yourself through food, it's all like on that similar path. Right?
Yeah.
That self-acceptance and also self-care.
Yeah. 100%. And yeah, there's so many reasons why we don't have self-worth. I mean, I think obviously there's some patterns and there's some links that make sense. Like we all, you know, different upbringings
Yep.
and
Yep. The familial stuff
Yeah.
is big.
huge. And then society, what it places on us and, you
The
know,
expectations.
yeah. And our friends, especially when we're younger, you know, like that's can be really tough for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
that's where especially in those formative years, we sort of set this blueprint of who we are, and it's so much or it can be very influenced by the outside world. So it's sort of, I think as we get older, it's like unwinding all those narratives that aren't our own that were
Yes.
put on us.
That doesn't belong to us. And also the idea that, you know, I was just talking to someone earlier about like who we are surrounding ourselves with. Like, you know, it sounds cheesy, but like creating your tribe and finding your tribe, like it's real. It's like finding the people that when you're with them, you feel good.
Yeah.
And that your nervous system is calm. And that, or if your nervous system is riled up, that you can go to each other and talk about it and like have supportive environments for each other. And I think this isn't like, it's not new, but maybe so many of us maybe didn't have that in like, you know, younger years. And then we just got used to it, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
Finding the people that like, lift your heart up, where your soul can be itself and be, you know, you can be me and Carly, like Carly and I, my Women of Wonder partner, we always say like, oh, we get to be our best weirdo selves around each other because that's love, you know, like we just love to hang out and talk about whatever is on our mind, and we're not going to judge each other and be like, oh, that's weird. And we're like, oh, that's weird. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Amazing. Tell me more.
Amazing. I want to hear everything. So to be able to be our best weirdo selves and live our great lives, you know, we're saying like that's kind of the point, right? We don't want to just go through and like work that corporate job. I'm not saying go quit your jobs, everyone, but I'm saying if you don't love it, maybe like find something you do love, because we all have that purpose. So what's your purpose? What are you here for? And so like you're doing that work. And another thing that's really fascinating to me is that you are now focused on perimenopause. I think that's so cool. You know, I'm 47. And so for me, this is fascinating because I think that what did I hear about menopause? First of all, nobody talks about it, I feel. No one wants to talk about it because it's like a weird, I don't know, is it taboo? Is it a weird thing?
Yeah.
Is it a female thing? We don't talk about female things that really impact us. Like that's so strange, right? and it affects all women. And like, so I want to talk about it, and I want you to tell me, like, why did you get into it, and why are you talking about it?
Because people are not talking about it.
Yes.
Exactly. I feel like I don't know, it's interesting. Since I've become so interested in it, I noticed this past year, like Oprah had a whole program on menopause. So there is this sudden boost of education.
Great.
And women talking about what this means. But for myself, I talked to my mom a little bit, and she had an experience that was, we'll say just pretty average. Like she had some hot flashes. She got a little crabby, as she said. But she didn't really feel like any huge mood fluctuations.
Okay.
She didn't experience like a big nasty menopause trip, we'll say.
Okay.
So I heard from her, but then that was about it. I had heard of other stories of women like having a rougher time. I knew of some women that had gone through like, gotten more depressed, but it wasn't close enough to me to ask them.
Right.
And then rewind about a year and a half ago, I was going through some life. Are we allowed to swear?
Yes.
Life
Yes, you
shit.
can.
Okay. Life shit, we'll just say.
Yeah.
And it started compiling. Like it was just like all this stuff that I had not healed, and then mixed with an old relationship. And, it just starts like this huge tumbleweed
Yes.
of like, yeah.
We can try to
messiness.
ignore it and push it away, but it's still there unless we, do the work. Yeah. So it started coming up.
So it started coming up. And at the same time, these perimenopause symptoms started coming in, which really was confusing because how it showed up and how it shows up for a lot of women, and then this is the piece I really want to speak to, is in increased anxiety and panic.
Okay. So
Yeah.
increased anxiety and panic. So you might not even realize that that's part of the perimenopause, but like, for example, you're like stressed out about something more than you normally would have been, or you're feeling like, oh, my heart's beating really fast, or I can't breathe. Sometimes anxiety would show up for me like that I'm like, I can't breathe.
Totally.
Like shortness of breath, that kind of stuff, right? Okay.
Exactly. And what's wild is as I started doing my little deep dive into this, because I was, I would say, in a state of terror for about 6 months, where you feel like a bear is chasing you. Like my heart was like, just coming out of my chest. I'd been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. My doctor wanted to put me on an SSRI, and was just like, well, this is what's going on. I had an inkling it had to do with perimenopause.
You did. You had a feeling, so you
little-
tapped into your gut,
Yes.
hey? Because it could be easy for them to say, well, this is a anxiety issue, without understanding the connection to, okay, it's actually connected to perimenopause. It's not just coming out of nowhere.
Exactly. So what actually happens when I read this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Our hormones are just like up and down, up and down. What happens, it actually triggers the amygdala in your brain. Cortisol is released. And of course, you're like, oh my gosh, where's the bear? What's happening? Why am I so anxious? So there's this physiological component. Thank you.
Let's say that fast 10 times.
Right. That's going on, and it's mixing with your brain chemistry.
Right.
So no wonder you're feeling absolutely crazy. And so when I read that, I was like, oh gosh. And I got myself an amazing naturopath who, within like 5 minutes of talking to me, she's like, I think you're going through perimenopause.
Wow.
I don't even need to do the blood work. I'm 90% sure you are low in progesterone.
So interesting, right? So not like you'd gone through the medical system. Did anyone bring that up, or did you have any testing done when you went to the doctors? And
No.
So
Next month, I'm going to see a gynecologist, and this is over a year later. I'm finally getting
into seeing it. So
Yeah.
but like, unless you knew, like, so but the naturopath within 5 minutes was like, I think this is what's going on.
But my doctor did not. She was, bless her, but she was not listening to me on that. Because I had come to her and I said, I think I'm going through perimenopause.
Yeah.
She's like, well, no, I'd look at this first. I'm like, well, I don't know what to do here. So thank God I got the naturopath. So yeah, I was like at a,
interesting. I've been through the exact same. Like I went to the doctor, said, "Hey, do you think like this could be like a menopause thing starting? Like like are these signs?" And and I think it's maybe the way the training is happening.
Yes.
That the training is saying no, like and also being and obviously love doctors, mad respect, like much respect and everything. But maybe it's the system, maybe it's the training that's not saying let's take a look at this or say, is there something we can do to help? Or maybe there could be like an automatic, like, okay, at this stage, if you're starting to feel these things, this is the testing that should be done so that we can help people not feel so, what's going on and where am I at? And have to go on SSRIs when I don't even know if that would necessarily help because there's other things, right? So,
exactly.
so you got on this thing that you're like, okay, now let's see. So you had, perhaps you said you have low progesterone?
Progesterone,
Okay.
yes. So I got a prescription for that.
Oh, wow.
And in about 2 to 3 months, I could really see a shift.
No
It was
way.
like, I think that the placebo effect is real.
It's
It is a
real,
real
yeah,
thing, yeah.
yeah.
So I felt already relief
Better.
that I knew something was going to hopefully help me. I had trust that this was the answer.
Wow.
And it was amazing. Like, I mean, of course, there were still other things to sort of work out, but at least it got me back down to a baseline. And speaking of like the doctors, I've heard, and don't quote me 100% on this, but I've seen it many places that apparently they only get 1 day
On
on
the training?
menopause. Yes, in their So
Is this true? We need to talk. Like, if that's,
Yeah.
think about half the population. I think it's actually more than half the population are women.
Mm-hmm.
If we get 1 day on that huge part of our life, that should be looked at.
Yeah.
Let's change the system. But, whoever's writing the curriculum, let's look at that because it's important.
So
Right?
important. Yeah. So I think now, because we're just also in an era with social media where these things can be talked about in such an open way. That's where I'm like, I love social media for this.
Yes. Yeah, you have a page. What's your page
Yeah.
called?
Peri.menopause.
Menopause. And so
Yeah.
it's a great place to get some like information and just start to like hear about the subject and maybe look at like what are the things impacting you, because if we can talk about that and create this community and like come together as women and just have open conversations, then we can feel better.
Exactly.
Right.
Like a lot of my friends are younger than me. I had 1 or 2 that were older. So there was nobody really that I knew that was going through it. So I think that's why the more conversations that, get out there, then you'll be like, oh, wait a minute. I've been feeling awful the past 3 weeks. I feel so anxious. And I think it's hard because we do live in an age too where people are suffering from this already.
Yep.
So it's like, oh, well, maybe this is just the world we live in.
Like maybe maybe I've just gone through a lot. But maybe it's something else.
Yes. And a lot of the blood tests too with the doctors will not show
Okay.
that you're going through perimenopause. So that's what's also very confusing is that certain blood work will just not show it. So the standard stuff that they do, it's like, oh, no, not yet. Sorry.
And then suddenly it could be like, okay, yeah, now it's over.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're like, now I can't do anything about it. So it's like having the conversation. And so this is all the work you're doing. What I'm seeing is, it's you're a big community builder. Like you're building the community and you're bringing people together and getting the conversations and the physical and the nutritional and like the mental. So it's like, wow, it's like all of these amazing aspects. And so why is it important to you to do this work and to build communities in this way?
Gosh, I was just going to say community's everything. Like to be in connection with other humans, we are social creatures. We are meant to be in community. And I think that's one of the hardest things right now with sort of the age we're living in is that's not so present. Like tribes, like we're meant to be in tribes.
Yes.
Like I think we all can just feel it from the simplest like weekend gathering with a bunch of your friends.
Yeah.
To maybe something a little bit more on the spiritual side where you get together for like a retreat or whatever it is, even a meal, like that connection is just, it's nourishment for the soul. Like,
Yeah, nourishment
Yeah.
for the soul.
Yes.
And like so important, right? It's like that is everything that we need in life right now. And I think we're almost like trained to forget that that was so important. And I just want to say thank you for doing this beautiful work and like bringing people together and like helping them look into their souls and connect with other souls, you know, and come out happier and feeling better because, you know, that like, what else is the point? Why else are we here? And so thanks, Marika. And I love experiencing that with you. And before we sign off, is there anything else that you would maybe like to share or say to people or encourage people to do or anything that's in your heart right now?
Great question. I'm just trying to tap into that.
Tap in.
Yeah.
Before we started, we closed our eyes and tapped into the energy. So we might as well do it again.
Yes. I mean, what's present right now and just
Yeah.
top of mind is coming back to the connection and just, I know it's hard for people who, you know, I feel very blessed that I do have like an amazing friend group and family.
Yeah.
And I know that's not the case for everyone.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess really right now, if you are not feeling that connection, and you feel like that's maybe missing from your life, is whatever way you can, trying to find your people. And it could be through like a hobby, or it could be through like cooking or volunteering somewhere. You never know where you're going to make these connections. But I think, yeah, connection and community and having people that have your back is like everything in life.
Yes, I love it. And then caring enough for yourself that you have their back too.
Yeah.
So you have your own back and then you have each other's back, and that we can come together and support each other and lift each other up. And that makes like a warm feeling of community and a safe place and a better world. So thank you, Marika. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. Much love. Till next time.